Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be discussing about the constructors and destructors and as well as destructors and constructors in my inheritance. In my previous video, I have already discussed about constructors and destructors. In this video, I'll be explaining the simple definition of what is meant by constructor and destructor, and followingly, I'll be moving on to constructors in inheritance and as well as destructors. Okay, first constructors and destructors would be only important, but constructors in inheritance and as well as destructors in inheritance would be under crucial part. These two topics I'll be discussing only the definition. If you want the clear explanation, you can check out my previous videos. And and before starting that, I want to thank you for showing your love towards me. I hope my channel grows. Okay. So, and I want to thank all of you. So that's it. So let's move on to learning part. So first, constructors and destructors, right? So let me give a simple example of constructor. Constructor. Okay. First, constructor means it is a special member function. So I'll give a simple example definition. Constructor is a simple special member function which is used to assign the objects. Assign the data members itself. Whenever an object is created in a constructor, automatic initialization of object data members are going to perform. So such topic is called as constructor, and the constructor name is same name as class name, and constructors are always in public area. Public access specifiers inside the public access specifier. They are not inside the private and protected, and that's it. Again, if in a simple definition, if I have to tell that constructor, it is the special member function, and it is an automatic initialization of variables. Whenever constructor is invoked at the time of object creation, whenever I'm creating a object, my constructor gets invoked automatically. So such topic is called as constructor. So let's move on to what is meant by destructor. So destructor means destructor also is a special member function which is used to remove the data, delete the data which the constructor has used. So that's it. You can say that is a special member function which is used to remove the data and which constructor has made. So delete the constructor space, I can say that memory, and then with the help of grid operator we are going to perform destructors. So this is the simple example of an simple definition of constructor and destructor. I'll be explaining in a simple example what is constructor and destructor. Okay, in my dev C++. Okay, so let me code fast. So this is my class of, for example, take it base integer a comma b in my public. So here I am going to create a constructor. This is my default constructor because there are no parameters present in my constructor, so that's why it is called as default constructor. So I am going to assign a equals to 10 and b equals to 20. So and then I'm going to print here itself a handle and b. So I'm closing the class. After that, in my main function I'm going to create an object. So base of b, that's it. So whenever I'm creating an object, automatically this constructor gets invoked, and then whatever the values present in my and gets initialized, and whatever the functions it has to perform, it will perform. So let's check. Yep, it's working perfectly. So my answer would be 10 and 20. That's it. So whenever I'm object is created, I'm not going to call b dot base and something like that. So whenever a simple object is created, automatically this constructor gets invoked, and whatever the statements that are present in my constructor gets worked. So that's it. Let's move on to a destructor. I said that destructor starts with a grid operator, and destructor also having same name as class name. For example, let me remove this and put it here. Okay, perfect. So, and one more thing in destructor, when this base b is an object, right, which is only bounded to this function. So if I'm using object here, it is not possible because base b object is bounded to here itself. So whenever the variable is outside the function, then whatever the data present in a constructor gets deleted. I mean, our base, this is destructor, gets removed. Destructor removes the constructor memory. So here, after the initialization, first base b mean constructor gets invoked. After the invoke of my constructor, it will move on to a whatever the present in my class, it will move on to a destructor. So after the destructor, it will move on to another main. So when there is nothing, so it will print a 10 and 20. So this is a simple example of an constructor and destructor. I've already discussed this constructor and destructor in my previous video. For a simple example, I've showed that. And our next topic is constructor in inheritance and destructors in inheritance, right? So let me give you a simple example. Yes, here it is. So here, let me zoom this, copy this. Sorry for the convenience. Okay, paste it here. Okay. Yep. So this is my base class and this is my derived class. So whenever I'm deriving a class from my base class, so for example, take in my base class I'm having a constructor, default constructor, and in my derived class I'm having a default constructor. So whenever I'm going to derive a class from my base class, so the compiler implicitly adds this base constructor before my derived constructor. So whenever this derived constructor gets invoked, first base class gets uh, prints, after that derived constructor gets printed. So in theory, this is the simple definition. If you see this example, you will get a clear understanding. Okay, first let me type it here. Okay, this is my class base. Okay, here, so constructor is always in public, right? So, and class constructor name is same name as class name, cout, and this is my base class constructor already. Okay, and this is my derived class, and here I'm going to inherit the base class. So public base, and then I'm going to create another constructor from my derived. So name should be same name as derived class name. So this is my another constructor. Here I'm going to write derived class constructor. That's it. Okay, perfect. So simple. This is my base class and this is my derived class. I'm going to derive the class from my base class. So such concept is called as inheritance. We all already know that with the help of inheritance operator. So here this is my default constructor, and this is my another constructor. What is the difference between this constructor and that constructor is, so this constructor is present inside the derived class of that base class. So that's the difference between these two constructors and classes. So here what I'm going to perform is integer main, right? I'll simply call derived d. That's it. Whenever I'm running this program, first it will move on to this derived function, derived class. So first it is constructorized. Constructor means automatically object constructor gets invoked, and then whatever the statements are inside it, it will run and print. So first it would print derived class constructor, and then whatever the base class, how the base class data is gets printed. So that's the main issue, right? So that is in my definition. I've said that whenever if I'm having a base class, in my base class if I'm having a constructor, and the class is derived from my base class, and it also having a constructor of default constructor. So my compiler, what my compiler implicitly does is, it will put here implicitly, I mean we cannot say it, but my compiler does this. So it will print like inside base, it will call the base constructor. So here first my base class constructor gets printed, after that my derived class constructor gets printed. So let me show you. Yep, already. So here first it has to print derived class construct, no, but implicitly our compiler calls this base class constructor. Implicitly first base class constructor gets printed, after that my derived class constructor gets printed. So that is the concept of inheritance in a constructors. So what we are going to take input from this video is, whenever we are using these types of template, so first base class constructor gets invoked, after that derived class constructor gets invoked. Similarly, if you are going to use, let me take this code, and let me use for destructors. Okay, this is for destructor, we have to simply use grid operator, right? So this becomes my destructor, and then base class destructor, perfect. And this is my destructor and the derived class destructor. Can you guess what will happen in here? So should my base class destructor gets printed first, or else my derived class destructor gets printed? So it is different from my base class constructor, because here first derived class destructor gets printed, after that implicitly at the line at the end of my derived construct destructor, this base class gets I mean my compiler calls this base class destructor. So you can guess the answer now. First my derived class destructor gets printed, after that my base class destructor gets printed. So let us check. Yep, it is working perfectly. So what we are going to take input from this destructors is, so whenever we are going to come across this type of pattern, first in my derived destructor, first whatever the data present in my statements are going to print in my derived class destructor, but at the end of line, I mean before closing my destructor, at the last line compiler adds the base class destructor. Okay, this is my base class, and base class destructor is gets added to the last line of my derived destructor. So here my base class destructor having base class destructor, right? So that's why base class destructor gets added at the end of line. So if you want to show one more, I'll write it here already, another. So we can guess here output first derived class destructor gets printed, after that already another, and then base class. Yep, it is working perfectly. So that's it. I hope you are clear with inheritance in, sorry, constructors in inheritance and destructors in inheritance. So if you find any issue in this example or problem, please let me know. And if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. So that's it for video. Thank you for watching.